The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus Chen's penthouse office as he stared at the city lights blurring into watercolor streaks below. At 34, he commanded a tech empire worth $8 billion, yet tonight he felt emptier than the day he'd started his company in his parents' garage. His assistant had left hours ago, but the silence felt deafening. When his phone buzzed with a text from his college roommate Jake, he almost ignored it. "Dude, you need to get out. My wife's friend Sarah needs a date for her company's charity gala tomorrow. She's amazing, kind, smart, funny. Just show up as Marcus, not Marcus Chen, CEO, please." Marcus had sworn off blind dates after years of women who saw dollar signs instead of the man behind them, but something about Jake's genuine concern, coupled with his own crushing loneliness, made him type back a reluctant okay. He had no idea that decision would shatter every wall he'd built around his heart. Sarah Martinez stood in front of her bedroom mirror, smoothing down the simple black dress she'd bought on clearance 3 months ago. At 28, she possessed the kind of natural beauty that needed no enhancement: warm brown eyes that sparkled with intelligence, and a smile that could light up any room. But tonight, that smile felt forced. Her 8-year-old daughter Emma was sprawled across the bed, homework scattered around her like confetti. "Mom, why can't I come to your fancy party?" Emma asked, not looking up from her math worksheet. "Because it's a grown-up thing, sweetheart. Mrs. Rodriguez will be here soon to watch you and Tommy." Sarah's voice carried the exhaustion of a woman who'd been carrying the world on her shoulders since her husband died in a car accident 4 years ago. 6-year-old Tommy burst through the door, his superhero cape trailing behind him. "Is the prince coming to pick you up, Mommy?" Sarah laughed despite herself, kneeling to fix his crooked mask. "No prince, baby, just a nice man who might become a friend." She'd almost cancelled tonight. Working double shifts as a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital barely covered their modest apartment rent, let alone babysitters for social events. But her friend Lisa had insisted, even offering to pay for the sitter. "You deserve one night of happiness, Sarah. You've been everyone else's strength for too long." Marcus arrived at the gala venue 30 minutes early, his palms sweating in a way they hadn't since his first board meeting. He'd chosen his most understated suit and removed his Rolex, replacing it with a simple watch his father had given him. For once, he wasn't Marcus Chen, the tech mogul whose face graced magazine covers. He was just Marcus, nervous, hopeful, and terrifyingly vulnerable. When Sarah walked into the ballroom, Marcus forgot how to breathe. She moved with quiet confidence, stopping to chat with servers and making everyone around her feel seen. Unlike the women at high society events who air-kissed and networked, Sarah genuinely listened to people. When she finally spotted him by the appetizer table, her smile was so genuine it physically hurt his chest. "You must be Marcus," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Sarah. Lisa's told me absolutely nothing about you except that you're one of the good ones." Her handshake was firm, her skin soft but bearing the slight calluses of someone who worked with her hands. "She said the same about you," Marcus replied, surprised by how steady his voice sounded. Though she might have undersold it, Sarah blushed, a reaction so authentic it caught Marcus off guard. In his world, everything was calculated, performed. This woman was refreshingly real. They found a quiet corner table, and conversation flowed like water finding its level. Marcus learned she was a pediatric nurse who specialized in cancer patients, a job that required not just medical expertise but enormous emotional strength. Sarah discovered Marcus worked in technology, though he kept details vague, claiming he helped develop apps for hospitals. "What made you choose pediatric oncology?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious. Sarah's expression grew distant. "My daughter Emma was in the hospital a lot when she was younger. Nothing serious, thank God, just recurring pneumonia that scared me to death. I watched these incredible nurses pour their hearts into caring for scared kids and exhausted parents. I knew that's who I wanted to be." "Your daughter?" Marcus felt his chest tighten, though he couldn't identify why. "Emma's 8, and my son Tommy just turned 6. They're my world." Sarah's entire face transformed when she spoke about her children, radiating a love so pure it was almost blinding. "Their dad passed away 4 years ago, so it's just the 3 of us figuring it out together." Marcus felt something crack open inside him, This wasn't just attraction, it was recognition. Here was someone who understood responsibility, sacrifice, and love without conditions. That must be incredibly difficult. Some days feel impossible, Sarah admitted, her honesty startling him. But they're also the reason I get up every morning. Emma wants to be a doctor like me, and Tommy's convinced he's going to be a superhero who saves cats from trees. Marcus laughed, surprising himself. Smart goals, very practical. As the evening progressed, Marcus found himself sharing things he'd never told anyone about the loneliness that came with success, the way people treated him differently once they knew his net worth, his fear that he'd never find someone who wanted him rather than his money. Money doesn't guarantee happiness, Sarah said quietly. I learned that lesson the hard way. David, my husband, I was convinced he needed to make more, work longer hours, buy us a bigger house. He was driving home from his second job the night he died. I would have been happier in a studio apartment if it meant more time with him. The raw pain in her voice made Marcus want to reach across the table and hold her hand. Instead, he leaned forward. He sounds like he loved you all very much. He did. But I've learned that love isn't just about grand gestures, it's about showing up every day, being present for the small moments. Sarah looked directly at him. What about you? Ever been married? Engaged once. She left when she realized I worked too much to be a proper society husband. Marcus's laugh was bitter. Turns out she was right about the working part, wrong about everything else. They stayed until the gala ended, talking until the staff began stacking chairs around them. When Marcus offered to drive Sarah home, she hesitated for a moment before accepting. His car was nice but not ostentatious, a careful choice that made Sarah wonder briefly about his real circumstances, but she was too tired to probe. Outside her modest apartment building, Sarah turned to thank him. This was wonderful, Marcus. I can't remember the last time I had such great conversation. Would you like to do it again? Maybe dinner next weekend? Sarah's face fell slightly. I'd love to, but weekends are tricky. I don't have regular childcare, and my schedule is pretty unpredictable with the hospital. Marcus made a decision that surprised even him. What if I came to you? I could bring dinner, meet your kids. If you're comfortable with that. Sarah stared at him for a long moment. Most men ran when they learned about Emma and Tommy. You really want to meet them? Sarah, your children are a part of you. If I want to know you, I want to know all of you. The following Saturday, Marcus stood outside Sarah's apartment door holding bags of takeout from a family-friendly restaurant, his heart pounding harder than it had during his first IPO. He'd spent the week researching children's interests, buying small gifts, a science kit for Emma and a superhero action figure for Tommy. When the door opened, two pairs of curious eyes peered around Sarah's legs. Emma, tall for her age with her mother's intelligent eyes, studied him with the careful assessment of a child who'd learned to be protective. Tommy, smaller and bursting with energy, wore a cape that had seen better days. Mom, is this the prince? Tommy asked loudly, making Sarah blush. This is Marcus, the friend I told you about, Sarah said, ruffling Tommy's hair. Marcus, meet my BDS Emma and Tommy. It's nice to meet you both, Marcus said, crouching to their level. Your mom told me Emma wants to be a doctor, and Tommy saves cats. I'm going to be a superhero doctor, Tommy announced proudly. I'll fix people and fight bad guys. Emma remained skeptical. Mom says you work with computers. Do you make games? Sometimes. Actually, I brought you something. Marcus pulled out the science kit. Your mom said you like learning about how things work. Emma's eyes widened as she examined the kit. This has real chemicals. Safe ones, Marcus assured Sarah quickly. It's designed for kids. Tommy was already tearing into his gift, his squeal of delight echoing through the small apartment. Mom, look, it's Captain Thunder. He's my favorite. As they ate dinner around Sarah's tiny kitchen table, Marcus felt something he'd never experienced, the warm chaos of family life. Emma peppered him with questions about technology, her sharp mind impressing him. Tommy regaled him with elaborate superhero stories, complete with sound effects and dramatic gestures. Sarah watched the interaction with growing amazement. Marcus didn't just tolerate her children, he engaged with them authentically, listening to their stories as if they were the most important things in the world. After dinner, while Sarah cleaned up despite Marcus's protests, He found himself on the living room floor with Tommy, helping build an elaborate superhero headquarters from couch cushions. Emma, initially wary, gradually warmed up and began explaining her science experiments to him with the intensity of a graduate student. "Mr. Marcus," Tommy said suddenly, his small hand touching Marcus's arm, "are you going to be Mom's boyfriend?" The question hung in the air like a soap bubble, beautiful and fragile. Marcus glanced at Sarah, who had frozen at the sink. "I hope your mom will let me keep being her friend," Marcus said carefully. "Would that be okay with you?" "Only if you promise not to make her sad," Emma said, her voice carrying wisdom beyond her years. "The last man who took her on a date made her cry." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "Emma, I promise I will do everything I can to make your mom happy, not sad." The little girl studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but if you break your promise, Tommy will use his superhero powers on you." "I'll turn you into a pickle," Tommy declared, making everyone laugh. As the evening wound down, Marcus helped tuck the children into bed, an intimacy he'd never imagined wanting. Emma hugged him goodnight, a gesture that meant more than any business deal he'd ever closed. Tommy insisted Marcus promise to come back soon. On the small balcony overlooking the city, Sarah and Marcus sat close together on a weathered bench she'd bought second-hand. "Thank you," Sarah said quietly. "Most people see my kids as complications. You see them as them. They're incredible, Sarah. Emma's going to change the world, and Tommy's going to make it laugh while she does it." Sarah turned to study his profile in the dim light. "Can I ask you something? And please be honest." Marcus nodded, though his stomach clenched. "What do you really do? Your clothes are expensive but understated, your car is nice but not flashy, and you just bought my kids gifts that cost more than I spend on groceries in a month. I won't judge you, but I need to know who you really are." Marcus had known this moment would come. He'd hoped to have more time, to prove his feelings before revealing the truth. But Sarah deserved honesty. "My full name is Marcus Chen. I'm the CEO of Chen Technologies." Sarah's face went through a series of expressions of confusion, recognition, and then something that looked like pain. "The Marcus Chen, the billionaire who was on the cover of Fortune last month?" Sarah, "Oh God." She stood up abruptly, pacing to the balcony railing. "You lied to me. I omitted information. There's a difference." Marcus stood too, careful not to crowd her. "Everything else I told you was true. My feelings, my loneliness, my desire to find someone real, all of it was true. But you let me tell you about our struggles, about how I worked double shifts to pay rent, about how I bought this dress on clearance." Her voice was thick with humiliation. "You must have thought I was pathetic. I thought you were the strongest person I'd ever met." Marcus's voice was urgent now. "Sarah, please look at me." When she turned, tears were streaming down her face. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was terrified you'd see the money instead of me. Because every woman I've ever dated has wanted my bank account, not my heart. Because for the first time in my adult life, someone was interested in who I am, not what I have." "But I poured my heart out to you about our financial struggles. I talked about picking up extra shifts, about choosing between Emma's school supplies and new shoes for Tommy. How humiliating is that for you to sit there, knowing you could solve all my problems with pocket change?" Marcus felt his own eyes welling up. It wasn't humiliating, it was humbling. "You're raising two incredible children on your own, working a job that requires you to hold families together during their worst moments. And you're doing it all with grace and love and strength I can't even comprehend. Your wealth isn't measured in dollars, Sarah. It's measured in the love those kids have for you, in the lives you save at work, in the way you make everyone around you feel valued." Sarah wiped her eyes, but her expression remained guarded. "What happens now?" "You go back to your penthouse and your galas and your Fortune covers, and I go back to my double shifts and clearance dresses. What happens now is entirely up to you." Marcus stepped closer, hope and desperation warring in his chest. "I can't change who I am or what I have, but I can promise you these are my feelings for you, for Emma and Tommy, have nothing to do with money. If you asked me to give it all away tomorrow to keep you in my life, I'd start making calls tonight." "That's not fair to ask." "I'm not asking you to ask. I'm telling you where my priorities are." Marcus reached for her hands, relieved when she didn't pull away. "Sarah, I've been successful at everything except the thing that matters most, to finding someone to share life with. You've been successful at the only thing that truly matters, to creating love, raising incredible humans, making the world better one patient at a time." They stood in silence for several minutes, the city humming below them. Finally, Sarah spoke. "I need time to think. This changes everything." Marcus nodded, though his heart was breaking. "I understand. But Sarah, whatever you decide, know that meeting you and Emma and Tommy has changed me. You've shown me what really matters. That's a gift I can never repay." He kissed her forehead gently and left, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts and a decision that would change all their lives. For 3 days, Marcus heard nothing. He threw himself into work, but every meeting felt meaningless. His assistant commented that he seemed distracted. His investors noticed his lack of enthusiasm for a new acquisition. All he could think about was Emma's scientific curiosity, Tommy's infectious laughter, and Sarah's luminous smile. On Thursday evening, his doorman called up to announce a visitor. Marcus's heart stopped when he saw Sarah standing in his lobby, looking small and nervous in her nurse's scrubs. "I just got off a 16-hour shift," she said when he met her at the elevator. "I'm exhausted and probably not thinking clearly, but I need to say something." They rode to his penthouse in silence. When the elevator opened directly into his apartment, Sarah's eyes widened at the opulent space, but she didn't comment. "Would you like some coffee, food?" Marcus asked, suddenly self-conscious about his surroundings. "Just honesty," Sarah said, settling onto his minimalist sofa. "I've spent 3 days thinking about everything about you, about us, about what's best for my kids." Marcus sat across from her, maintaining distance to give her space. "I talked to Emma and Tommy about you," Sarah continued. "Emma asked if you were rich, and I told her yes, very rich. You know what she said? Good. Maybe he can help us help other people." And Tommy said, "Does that mean he's a superhero too?" Despite everything, Marcus smiled. "My children have better instincts about people than I do sometimes," Sarah admitted. "They see your heart, not your bank balance. And maybe I should trust their judgment more than my fears." "What are you saying?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I'm saying that I fell for Marcus, the man who sat on my living room floor building superhero fortresses and listening to my daughter explain photosynthesis. The money scares me not because I want it, but because I don't know how to navigate that world." "You don't have to navigate anything you don't want to," Marcus said urgently. "My life can be as simple or as complicated as we choose. The only thing I care about is being part of your family if you'll have me." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "There would have to be rules. I won't be a charity case. I pay my own bills, buy my own groceries. I won't let my children grow up thinking money solves everything." "Agreed. And if we do these, if we try, it's not about you rescuing us. It's about us choosing to build something together." "Sarah." Marcus moved to sit beside her, taking her hands in his. "You don't need rescuing. You're the strongest person I know. I'm the one who needed saving from loneliness, from a life without meaning, from thinking success was measured in stock prices instead of bedtime stories." Sarah searched his face, looking for any trace of insincerity. What she found instead was a man who'd discovered that all his wealth meant nothing without someone to share it with. "Emma wants to show you her science project tomorrow," she said quietly. "And Tommy insists you need to meet his goldfish. Is that a yes?" Sarah's smile was brighter than all the city lights visible through his floor-to-ceiling windows. "That's a let's see where this incredible, terrifying, beautiful thing takes us." Marcus kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Outside, the city sparkled with possibility, and inside, two lonely hearts began to heal, discovering that the greatest wealth wasn't measured in dollars but in love multiplied, family chosen, and hope renewed. 6 months later, Marcus Chen shocked the business world by announcing a new philanthropic initiative focused on supporting single parents and funding pediatric medical research. When reporters asked what inspired the dramatic shift in priorities, he simply smiled and said he'd learned from the best teachers, a brilliant nurse and her 2 amazing children who'd shown him that true success was measured not in what you accumulated, but in what you gave away, and that the richest life was one shared with the people who loved you not for what you had, but for who you chose to be.